Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds Podcast.
Each episode, we invite extraordinary guests who are masters of their craft. They're innovators, entrepreneurs, and of course, motorcycle enthusiasts who have made their mark in the world.
They share their stories, insights, and hard-earned wisdom, giving you a front row seat to the strategies and experiences that shape their successes.
So sit back, grab a drink, and get ready for an exhilarating ride as we dive deep into the minds of these exceptional individuals.
Along the way, we'll uncover powerful strategies, gain fresh perspectives, and explore the limitless possibilities of what it takes to be an American mastermind. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds Podcast. I am your host tonight, Topher Sheeler. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Adams.
What up, what up?
We got Alec Langdon up on the soundboard. Love to see his hand. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very special guest for you here this evening. His story from coming from the streets in California to finding or to building a cellular mogul, which is absolutely fascinating, to ultimately his path and journey to finding God. This is a very special episode, and I cannot wait to get started. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Man, so listen, Anthony, the reason that we are here tonight is because you are a entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. I was thinking, like, how can I describe what Mr. Morrison does for a living? And the thing that you do is you get into business, you fix business, and then you get into another business and you fix the business. You're like a master mechanic of business. But that's not the Anthony Morrison that started out, this master degree level of understanding business and insurance and investing and seller financing, all these different things that you've gotten into. That's not where you came from. You came from some pretty humble beginnings. Right. Now tell me where were you? Where'd your family came over?
So I was born in the Philippines. My dad, military guy, met my mom. Lived there for the first 7 years of my life in Angeles City, Philippines. And in '83, when I was 7 years old, I moved to Lynwood, California, which is next to Compton, in between Compton and Watts. So
high value area. In 1983, that place was, suburbia.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I had no idea, right? This is like my first experience in America. I thought that was America.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
So how was it? What does that mean?
So, I mean, obviously for me, it was a huge transition because I'm just trying to fit in. You know, I'm this half white, half Filipino. I don't really have an identity as far as, there's a lot of Hispanic kids, there's black kids, maybe one or two white kids, and then there's me. So obviously the people that looked closest like me were Mexicans. So there's a lot of Mexican kids, so naturally I wanted to be like them. I just wanted to fit in. And so I just, I started associating myself with them. I started playing with them, obviously through elementary school and things like that. And, as I grew a little bit older, 7, 8, 9, I lived by a park. It was Ham Park. It's no longer there. They built the high school because it was so gang-infested. And every day I would walk by, I'd see all the cholos. Gangsters, and it was part of the young crowd gang, which eventually I became part of. And they had their own tactics. They would tell us to come over, me and my little brother Kelly, and they'd ask us questions like, "Hey, where are you from?" And that's a term that you would use, like, "Hey, I'm from this gang."
Yeah, who are you aligned with?
Yeah. Like at the time, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, so they were bringing me up to understand, that lingo. The culture.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the first time I ever smoked a joint when I was 7 years old.
Whoa.
I was young. I was really young. And so, that was the kind of peer pressure that I was exposed to in them days. But, I realized later in life that's how I was wired. I was pretty adventurous. But at the time, looking back now, I'm like, damn. I'm 7 years old.
7.
I can't even imagine. I got grandkids. I have 5 grandkids, and I can't even imagine one of them smoking weed at 7 years old.
So it's almost like it's like a training ground for, like, getting your life off to a great start. You know what I mean? Like you're in a place where you're being institutionalized.
Right.
Before you're even 7. You're 7 years old.
Yeah.
You're breaking the law, felony level.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and Kelly, your brother Kelly, Now, you've got two brothers named Kelly.
No, I have two brothers named John.
John.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
Good homework.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, when you see them all running around together, there's a lot going on. But Kelly, Kelly's a good guy growing up. He was just younger than you then.
He was 3 years younger. He was 4 at the time we came here. His English wasn't very good when he came here. But yeah, I mean, he looked up to me,
You were the example.
Yeah, I was the example. So
big shoes to fill for a 7-year-old. So here we are, 7 years old. You're in this terrible environment.
Right.
How long did you guys stay in Lynwood?
I was 15 when I left.
So you left 15 and you moved to Taylorsville.
No, I moved to Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, I'll tell you that story. So through that process from 7 to 15, my father, I love my dad, no regrets. How I was brought up. He was major alcoholic. He had a lot of pain. And so, the gang became essentially my family. Mm-hmm. They're very loyal. I really embraced that lifestyle. I wanted to become, top notch. I wanted to climb the ranks and be like the top dog.
Taking care of yours.
Yeah, just taking care of business, for the neighborhood and putting in work. And so along those lines, I got in a lot of trouble. I was locked up in and out of juvenile facilities. I spent 6 months in the place between Camp Mariloma and Camp Miller. I don't know if you ever seen the movie Great Iron Gang.
Yeah.
So that Camp Kilpatrick, there was a camp right next to it. What divided the two camps was the kitchen, right? Because they served both camps. I was in Camp Miller. Mm. So I did 6 months there, and I was on it was so bad my father bought funeral insurance for me because he thought for sure I was going to die.
It was a matter of time.
A lot of people were dying left and right.
Just getting shot, overdosing.
Yep, just mainly shot. Drive-by shootings. It was pretty wild out there. And
you're seeing this. You're like in it.
Yeah, I'm in it. I have like dudes that I grew up with died.
And you're ducking and running. You're doing the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm engaged every single day. Wow. Drinking, the whole nine. Like I wanted to be the guy. And I was probably one of the youngest ones. So short story long, come 15, I get arrested. I keep violating. And I'm about to go to, it's called CYA, California Youth Authority, which is basically like a junior prison, right? It's like they put you there to get you ready for the adult prison.
It's the farming league.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, the farm league. The AAA.
He's got a great future in the business.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my grandmother in Chicago, I'll back up. My father finally had it in him say, I need to get my son out. So he reached out to my grandmother.
His mom.
Yeah, his mom, who, her background's interesting because she was the wife of the CEO of the Jelly Belly Company, my grandfather.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's a whole nother crazy story, too. And so he reached out for assistance. And at the time, my grandmother was living with my Uncle Dave, my Aunt Connie. They were very, both had master's degrees, well off, well educated. And so I went to court, and I had an amazing public defender who owned a law firm. She just happened to be doing pro bono work or whatever, and she negotiated a deal with the judge. So instead of sending me to California Youth Authority, the junior prison, the AAA league, they signed a deal. They agreed to a deal where I would go to Chicago, Evanston, Illinois.
Evanston, Illinois.
Yeah, and not not come back to California till I was at least 18 years old, and finish my school out there.
Wow.
So it was either YA or
Chicago, baby.
Chicago.
So you go off to Chicago, and that's not too far off the water. Like that's some cold country in the wintertime.
Yep.
Like you went from warm in the Philippines to pretty warm in SoCal.
Oh my gosh.
To Chicago, which is bitter cold.
Cold.
Not just cold. Bitter cold.
You were there in the Navy, right?
Oh yeah. It's right through you cold. Like it's not even pretending.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're wearing.
Yeah.
You're cold.
Yeah.
How'd that affect you going out there? And also, you went out there kind of probably with a little bit of like some OG thug.
Oh yeah.
attitude?
I remember, I forget a lot of things, but I remember vividly when I got off the plane, I was wearing a Pendleton, something you would see in the movie, button up, top like black Dickies, creased up, and I had a hairnet. And I got off the plane, and my aunt and uncle picked me up in the airport.
They're like, what is going on?
They're like, hey, they kind of knew what they signed up for. I had met them like the prior summer.
Okay. So they weren't surprised.
They weren't surprised.
Okay. That's still pretty funny.
Well, my aunt and uncle, I'll back up. My aunt and uncle, my aunt helped, there was a foundation called Boys Hope. And she was helping funding that organization and raising money for that organization. And she was trying to get me into that program. And they denied me. She was kind of devastated.
Too much, ma'am. Thank you very much.
So she was like, yeah, we'll take him in.
Wow.
So
that's good for them, man. That's
hard.
I mean, if you're going to adopt a pet, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to get the pit bull that's like with a hairnet in the corner, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to get a nice dog.
Fluffy, shed,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So were you trying to like prove your mettle in Chicago or
It was a shaky start in the beginning because I still had the mentality. And my first day of school, I was a target. I was dressed up like a Southern California gangster, and at the time there was no internet, right? People can only associate with movies.
Right.
So I looked like the guy from Colors, right? Like 2-1. So, there was a bunch of, I guess.
Colors.
Yeah, dude. There was a bunch of, it's interesting because I was walking through the halls and there was a group of just, black dudes. I found out later they were like vice lords. Because in Chicago, it's your vice lord or a gangster disciple. And there was a group of them, and they flashed a 2-1, which in the movie Colors, the guy's like, 2-1, Holmes?
Yeah.
So I thought he was making fun of me. He insulted me. And so
respect.
I ran up on him and started swinging immediately. So, it's just me
doing you
and 4 or 5 dudes.
Oh, man.
And they broke it up really fast. And so I kind of set the tone, like, hey, I'm not messing around.
This kid's not playing.
But I was also harassed for like the next month, because I was a target. So it took a lot of like a mind shift change, and I started playing baseball because I really wanted to get away from that life.
You did.
I did.
So even though that's who you were,
Right.
You knew this doesn't taste good, huh?
No.
What was it about it? Like you saw, well, I guess seeing friends, losing friends, and
Right.
like seeing like the people you respect, like this, there's no future in this.
There isn't. After it's all said and done, I was listening to my dad. I was listening to even the guys on the streets, as messed up as they were. They see a young kid. They don't want that kind of lifestyle for them. They're gonna, hey, don't be like me. There was a lot of guys like that in the ghetto.
They were just telling the truth.
Telling the truth.
Wow.
They were drunk, high, whatever. They're like, hey, this is no life.
This is not happiness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So here we are in Chicago. It's been a month or 3. You're kind of starting to adjust, probably changing the way you dress.
Yep.
Start showing up for baseball practice.
Yep.
Make some friends.
Yep.
You still have friends from Chicago.
I do.
Something that you need to know about Mr. Morrison is he's got friends pretty much everywhere. Everywhere we go, he's like, oh, this dude, we were in school together.
Oh, really?
And I used to yell this when I was in his car and embarrass him. Just like
Yeah.
Anthony, his gift is like he can hang on to some friends. He's got people like legacy level friendships.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So you start to improve. You start to get your act together.
Yeah.
And you're moving through high school now. Your grades are getting better. Like you're getting focused.
Yeah. I remember, like, keep in mind, I'd missed like 2.5 years of school, from basically the beginning of 7th grade or halfway through 7th grade. I was in and out of facilities, just not going to school, partying, doing all those things. And so I arrived there the second semester of my freshman year, February. Mm-hmm. So I remember learning pre-algebra. I didn't even know what X was. Like, what's X?
Oh, you got thrown in.
Oh, geez.
I got thrown in, man.
Yeah. So you're swimming as hard as you
Swimming.
can.
Yeah.
Man.
Yep. I ended up getting a B.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome, dude.
Oh man,
So,
Anthony is Rain Man when it comes to math. I'm not kidding.
Worked hard, man.
Yeah, I was telling someone this morning I got an award recognized in when I was a sophomore for the most tutored hours, like at an assembly.
That's awesome.
Wow.
They brought me down. Come on down,
Really?
Rob. Most tutored hours in
Yeah.
chemistry, solid C, baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? They don't do that anymore. Like this guy right here.
Yeah.
Man. But you got a B in algebra?
Yep, I did.
That's-
I was proud. I worked hard on that.
Yeah.
Had tutors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Was
extra.
what was the drive to do that? How did you go from gangbanging, for lack of
Yeah.
a better word, to
Yeah.
like, okay, now I'm going to try to school? What was that process like?
It wasn't hard. It was just acclimating. It was adapting, right? Because I did want to change. I did want something better for my life, and I know that the gangbanging lifestyle wasn't sustainable, long term. I just wanted something better for my life. So whatever I had to do to make it happen. So, at the time, I'm like, okay, an education is going to help you get somewhere. So
Your aunt and uncle, of course, being
Yeah.
highly educated,
Yeah.
that's their gospel, man. They're preaching
absolutely,
that. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, they were a great example. Like my aunt and uncle, that's what they preached, and they were a great example to me. And I was surrounded by really positive people. So that environment kind of fostered that.
Wow.
Yeah, it
I didn't
fostered
know that about you. That's actually that's a life-saving change right there.
Yeah,
I mean, you wouldn't be here.
absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't be here.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
you went to college in Chicago, isn't that right?
Yeah, Southern Illinois University.
Well, what?
What?
Aren't they the-
Salukis.
so-
Yeah,
Salukis.
yeah.
That's an Illinois name right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Salukis,
Yeah,
as
That's
we-
what is? You know what a saluki is?
What's
Is it something wrapped in grape leaves?
It's an ancient Egyptian hunting dog.
Oh.
Oh.
A saluki.
A saluki.
All right.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like something that we ordered at happy hour and got a platter of them.
Yeah. I'd like some deep fried saluki, please.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
that was a cool college. It was nestled like in the state park.
Oh, yeah?
So there was like, you didn't have to have very good grades to get in. So like the expectations are pretty low. So you had like the dudes from the south side of Chicago that were like the ballers, right? They should have had like a national championship basketball team over there because you had some of the best ballers that couldn't go to like University of Illinois or a Big Ten school. They
Sure.
went there, and then you had the hippies.
Oh.
Like all the hippies because of the state park,
Yeah.
all the mosques. So it was a fun college, man. I flunked out in my first year. I majored in socializing. I spent a lot of money socializing.
With a minor in girl chasing.
Yeah.
I focus on skirts mostly.
Yeah.
That's funny. I majored in socializing. Oh, man. So what got you to Utah? How'd that happen?
So after my freshman year, my parents moved from
High
LA.
school, freshman year.
Yeah,
Okay.
high school freshman year. My parents moved from LA to Utah because my brother was starting to get involved with the gangs. And my dad's first wife was from here. So my 5 older half brothers all lived here. So he wanted to come out, and initially they were going to move to Boise, but they made a pit stop, and my mom was like, she saw the mountains and she wanted to stay.
This is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they moved out here while I was still in Chicago. And then that summer after my freshman year in high school, I came out to Utah to be with them. And so I went to high school here for a year before I went back to Chicago to finish my senior year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So all the guys you know here, you only were in school with them for a year?
For a year, yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
You should see this crew, dude. Like, we went to a basketball gang, and he's got like, if I said 6 or 7, like, dudes that he met and knew in high school in wrestling and different things, you would think that these guys like grew up together. They're like, Anthony. You spent a year with these guys?
Yeah, a year. Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know.
Some good dudes.
Yeah,
Some good
yeah.
dudes. We went to the Jazz game, and we sat like on the second row from the top.
Yeah.
You know, where you have to have like oxygen. And we were yelling
Take
down.
3 breaks to get up there.
Yeah, we were yelling down at the game like they could hear us, and they were saying the funniest things. Like they would yell just some craziness, and we would just all be laughing up on the top.
Yeah.
Row. It was like in the back. It's like you're in the back of the room with all the clowns, like all the funny guys, hilarious
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So came here for 1 year,
Yep.
T-ville.
Yep. T-Bill.
Yep, home of
The Warriors.
the Warriors,
Yeah, yeah.
and he wrestled, and he would weigh in wrestling, and he'd be wearing his gold.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well,
One
yeah.
of my favorite stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, it's my buddy, a really good friend of mine, Steve Zolman, who's like,
Steve Zolman.
that dude is like
He's a monster.
He's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Very humble. But so we went in for a weigh-in, and Steve's the one that had the gold chain, and he's like, we're butt naked, standing there, and this dude's like trying to weigh in. His face is right in front of our crotch, and so Steve jumps on the scale, and the guy's like, there's some strange people coming out of Taylorsville. Look at this guy's got some gold chain on.
On the way in.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
We were laughing our butts off, man. Yeah.
So back out to Chicago, you finish up there,
Yep.
go to college,
Yep.
and then back to Utah.
Yep. I went to So I'd go there for and then I would come back in the summer. That's how I continued to build my relationships with the guys I met.
See, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. So
You were the summertime friend.
I was a summertime homie, man. Yeah.
Oh, man, teaching these Utah boys,
Yeah.
what's up? Hey, in Chicago, it's like this.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how we do it.
So spent a year at Southern Illinois. Came back in '95.
95.
Permanently. Yeah.
So now you're home.
I'm home.
So let's talk about that when you got home. And I've heard different stories about what it looked like to be the early Anthony Morrison, which I'm going to call the hustler.
Yeah. I was a hustler. Yeah.
You were a hustler.
Yeah.
So what were you into? What was your business then? What were you?
Well, I worked. I engaged in some illegal activity.
Sure. Retail sales.
Yeah, retail sales. So herbal products.
Almost the best salesmen I've ever met all kind of have that in common. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're resolving concerns.
But I also worked. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember I worked 3 jobs. I worked at Baker's Shoes, selling women's shoes. Worked at UPS loading trailers.
Huh.
And then I worked at a hotel on a late night shift for 10 hours. So I was literally working 18, 20-hour days.
Wow.
And, my slow day was Sunday, where I'd work 10 hours.
Only 10 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than most people work.
So I was ambitious. I was
Yeah.
hungry,
Yeah, and that has never gone away. I've never seen that go away. There's always something. When I talk to Anthony, almost every time I talk to you, there's always like, hey, guess what? Guess what we're doing? Guess where we're headed? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
So you're out there. One of my favorite stories was you started getting into cell phones.
Yeah.
Were becoming in vogue. It wasn't
Yeah.
like just like those dudes with the suitcases anymore.
Yeah.
They got to be kind of a thing, and you were kind of leading edges on the cell phone accessory.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you were selling those. How were you selling those?
Well, ironically, I had a herbal client, that worked for a cell phone company, VoiceStream at the time, and I was like, "Hey, what is VoiceStream?" He's like, "It's a cell phone company that's new." So this was in '90. This was '98. So I think that was 22. So fast forward to 22, interviewed with that company. There was like 6 college graduates. Like, it's like, why would I give it? You don't have a degree. I was like, if you don't give it to me, you're not going to get the sales. Like, I will sell the shit out of these phones. And the guy's like, all right. He hired me, and I killed it for 8 months. It was like the 1 or 2 every month over there. But what I started to see, because I'm a servant type of person. Just growing up in the Filipino culture, that's what they do over there. They serve people. They serve their family members. And so I was tired of customers coming in and not getting what they came in for. And so one day there was a little flyer that came into the store, and it said All-Star, All-American Accessories.
Okay.
So, I was tired of sending them to Circuit City and all these places. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call these guys up and see what they're all about. And so I started ordering product that we didn't have. And so a customer would come in, and I know it's probably illegal. I probably shouldn't have been doing this, but
They need a charger. Oh man, we don't have one.
but I got this outside, and I'd sell them faceplates and accessories, and they were happy.
Huh.
And so I ended up getting fired for that. One of the
That
So it
didn't
was
work out.
frowned upon, was what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. The senior VP of VoiceStream, his brother came in, and he wanted the Nokia 5190. So at the time,
Nokia.
So at the time, we only sold 6190s, which was a higher end version of that phone. So there was a Circuit City across the street. It's on 21st South, 7th East. I would go there and like clean out their inventory. I'd buy like 10 of them, keep them in my car, because everyone wanted the Nokia 5190. I couldn't, I was like, I had to work hard to sell the 6190 because it was
Wasn't
$100
as good?
more.
Oh, it was just more expensive.
gotcha.
Yeah, And so I started selling them just at cost. I'd buy them for 106. I'd sell them straight up at cost, and then I would get the activation, because the activation is where you made the money. So I would get credit for that.
Sure.
And so senior VP came in one day, and I did. We didn't have an accessory. I was like, hey, I got this for you.
Were you activating the 5190 on the voice stream?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
Wait, so you were doing the right phones?
yeah.
You were doing it fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. He was doing the right system, but he wasn't doing the right phones. He was buying the phones, and then he was activating the phones.
Well, they were still a voice stream phone.
No, at that time they didn't
Yeah.
have. Yeah, so he sold the phone in the store,
Right.
and then you were getting the faceplates and stuff from over there, so you had them.
Yeah. So the it's weird because it's totally backwards now, right? It was backwards back then. The Nokia 5190, the corporate-owned stores weren't carrying them. They were only giving them to the big box stores, like the Circuit Cities or the dealers, right? And everyone kept coming in and saying, I want the 5190. Here's the ad, It's $69.99. It's $99.99. Can you get me this phone? I'm like, I can't. So I just figured out a way to get the phone. I'd use my own money. I would invest. I'd buy $1,000 worth of phones and get 10. And I would clean them out in 2 days.
Wow.
And then I would get the activation. The store would get the credit
Sure.
for it. So the numbers look good.
But they're like, wait a second. We don't actually sell 5190s.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't. I
funny.
I was going to Costco and cleaning them out too. I was buying phones at Costco.
You were going to a couple places.
Yeah.
So how much would you say you were buying? How much inventory were you buying out of your own pocket, like when you were in the flow?
Probably in a month, probably 5,000.
So cool.
Yeah.
So this attitude, the see a need, fill a need, is kind of your superpower. Like I've seen you do it so many times where you're like, look over there. Look at that little problem over there. There's an opportunity there.
Yep.
Where do you think you got that kind of mindset?
That's a great question. I think it's just just when you want to serve somebody and you want to complete what they're looking for. You want to be part of that solution. You just look for ways. And so, I have enough common sense to figure out things, right? Like I'm very adept to situations and scenarios where I can see a problem and probably fix it.
Yeah.
And if I don't know, I'll ask somebody to help me.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen you do that too, where you kind of get above your knowing, but you know enough people,
right,
that you know someone.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is you have a great ability to assimilate their information. They could drop some complicated stuff, and you're like, got it.
Yeah.
And you can help me the first time, but I got this. I got it after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're amazing that way. So here we are. We just got fired.
Yeah, got fired.
Life is good.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man. So I was ready to open up my own business anyway. So I worked there for 8 months.
You can't hold a peacock down.
Yeah.
Gotta
Gotta
fly.
let 'em fly.
Gotta let them fly.
Yeah. So at the time, I just met Christy, who's now my wife. I met her in '97, so we had been dating for a year. And a new market in Arizona was opening up. VoiceStream was opening up a brand new market in Arizona. So Christy and I went over there and explored the place. I identified a location, signed a lease, signed a deal with Quality Distributors Incorporated.
In Arizona?
In Arizona.
What part?
It's close to Scottsdale, just outside.
So you moved down there? You were working out?
Well, listen.
I want to
finish.
know
I'll
now.
finish.
I want to know now. Rob?
Yeah,
See, I've
so-
known him for
yeah.
so long, and I'm hearing things I've never heard before.
Let him go.
It's all
Yeah,
right.
so we
I haven't heard any of this.
Damn
Keep
it.
going.
So we went out there a couple times. So signed a deal, and getting ready to launch. So I did a lot of market research. I wanted to do a store within the store, so like a hardware store, and open up a shop inside of a store because people weren't doing it. So I wanted the captive audience, But I decided I'm going to start with a retail store. That'll be my headquarters, and then we'll work it. right? Just work one and then work it out. And so getting ready, and then all of a sudden, my main carrier, VoiceStream, blackballs me.
What?
Yeah, they blackball me. They find out who I am.
Oh, he's
It's
that
like,
guy
this
that was
Anthony
assaulted.
Morrison. We fired him for integrity issues.
Oh no.
You know, So I'm like, all right, well, I had to call an audible, and it's like, you know what? It wasn't meant to be. Like it wasn't meant to be. It was. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to dwell on it. My ego was hurt, and so I decided to come back to Utah. Found a company, Prestige. Well, we'd never even moved there. So just to make it clear, we never moved there.
Just on the verge.
Yep, on the verge.
Did you get out of the lease?
I did. I got out of the lease.
You did?
Yep, I did. I don't know how I got out of the lease, but I did. We went. I found a company called Prestige Wireless. At the time, they were the largest dealer in Utah. I think they had like 20-some stores. And I said, hey, I want to be a sub dealer for you. This is what I can do. I can sell tons of phones. And I said, hey, I negotiated a deal. I said, look, basically they ended up keeping $10 of the commission. And I was able to get a credit line through them. So they front loaded me all the phones. So I didn't have to pay for the phones.
Oh wow.
That's huge.
Huge. Like it was a tremendous
Almost impossible.
opportunity.
The barrier of entry is incredible in this business because the cost per phone is no joke.
Yeah.
So you had a little suave salesman to you in there to walk in there and convince them to do this.
Absolutely.
Not a little.
Yeah.
This guy
Absolutely, man.
walks in and he's like, look.
I mean, it was a God thing. It was cool. Right? It was like, and it just so happened that they had a location inside the media play that they weren't doing anything with. It was like, hey, we had this location in media play. Like we're not manning it. I mean, they were doing the traditional retail stores, and that model wasn't working for them. So, I said, how much is the rent? Like $400 a month.
Easy.
Like right by the cash register. And media play back then
Was a big deal.
Busy.
Yeah.
So I went
It's
in.
traffic.
Traffic. And we killed it. Like we made money on the first day.
Wow.
I mean, it was stupid. I think we were probably making $30,000, $40,000 a month out of that location.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just kept kept taking that money, flipping it, opening up another location, recruiting sales guys, training them, and then we just kept opening locations. And it was just a domino effect. I wanted to get big, and I wanted to improve the process, and I wanted to get refined. So that was the start of my cellular career. Yeah.
So I meet Anthony, and when I meet him, he's just taking giant footsteps in the cellular world. He's like one of the largest Sprint sub dealers that in like the Western United States. Like you were just kind of growing, but people were taking notice. Like, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
And he had this hodgepodge group of sales guys, like some really like professional, like sharp guys, and then some thugs.
We had it all, dude.
You had the rainbow of like return missionary, like just out there hustling because they're hungry, and then you had these guys that were like on the verge of perhaps committing fraud on every deal.
Yeah, I did not discriminate.
Yeah.
Right.
What was the theory?
I think it was just a personal connection, and just asking questions and finding out what they're about, and if they wanted to take a chance and learn and really make some money. Like for me, that was to see someone be successful in that industry. That was music to my ears, because I only sold for really maybe a year and a half, and I could have continued in my sales process or becoming a great sales rep. But I wanted to manage salespeople and teach them the skill.
Sure.
That was my thing. I had to learn how to do that.
What was the number one trait that you were looking for at that time?
Oh man, I know the answer to this question.
Man, it's actually kind of a hard question. I think at that time,
Because I'm sure it's changed. And your answer would be much different now.
I think at that time it's just their ability just to connect or just to hustle.
Yeah.
They had to be hungry.
Yeah, hungry, make money.
That's it. It was like that was the one and only. Like, okay, let me show you how to do this.
Yeah.
And then we tried to refine it. We tried to get different. And you never know with this. Like this industry, the wireless industry is it's a fickle bitch, man.
Yep.
Not everybody is made for that type of sales.
Yep.
And so we had some people that would really just kill it. And you would meet them on the street and you'd be like, this guy might be a hobo.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Like if you saw them on their day off, you know what I mean? Or on the golf course, you're like, this person may have been run over by a car on the way in. But then they show up and they got on their wrinkled old connector wireless t-shirt and they would just kill it. They would just kill it. It was unprecedented. I've never seen anything like that. Changed my perspective on just like looking at somebody and being like, I got to read here. I know what's going to happen. Because there's one dude, there's a handful of guys. I can make a list of guys that would start with Steve, Blymiller, Randy. You know, you got a bunch of these guys that were just like...
Just the names.
Blymiller
and Randy.
Blymiller, this kid, I'm not kidding. He could sell phones, and he was the most unassuming dude. You'd walk up on him, and you'd be like, hey, man, how's it going? You would know there was no threat or pressure from this persona, and then next thing you'd walk out with like 17 cell phones with chargers and car mounts. Like he'd have you upsold. He was amazing, and he was so subtle. And then this guy Steve, this guy, like you would just be like, are you all there? Are you 100% there? And he would have people walking out with family plans. Plus, they were sending in their friends to see Steve because he hooked them up, and it was incredible to watch these guys. And so it really changed my ability to be like, this guy, looks like a nice, clean cut salesperson. Not always the answer.
Sometimes it like what you just said though, that they're not assuming it. They don't have anything about them that says, oh, there's not a threat there.
They're almost a little goofy, these guys. Every single one of the guys I listed, God bless them, and I'm in the crew. I'm in that group that we were all a little weird.
So you worked for Anthony then?
Yeah. Yep. The way I met Anthony, I had a Dish Network franchise, DirecTV Dish Network, and he wanted to add that into his cell phone stores. And I started working there and going to the different stores selling Dish Network, and relationship just took off.
Well, yeah, I mean, just to think about that, how we connected, I brought in Dish and DirecTV, and I'm like, okay, I brought in a new product, but it wasn't really working in the retail, environment. It was more of a door-to-door direct sales type of thing.
And the sales guys didn't know what they were doing, so they were hesitant to even bring it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Rob came in and said, hey, this is what I could do. And so he started selling, him and his crew started selling a ton. Like over 100 a month, and then I'm like, okay, they're starting to kill it. I'm like, all right, well, there's something to this, and how can we incorporate this and make it more pertinent in our retail sales process, right? Because not a lot of people were selling Dish Network or DirecTV
in a retail space
inside a mall.
Well, wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the Dish like that was the Taj Mahal? That was the higher ticket one
that was
at
the
that
stuff.
time. Yeah, that was.
Well, it was what you were after. Like if you really were into the sports, then you got the DirecTV. If you were really into like Lifetime, the Lifetime channel, daytime TV, then DirecTV or Dish was the way to go. And so just like understanding the product and which was what, and I spent a lot of time in the stores, and then I started selling a couple phones here and there. Like I was kind of like Anthony, like this doesn't seem that hard, and I learned the systems and got to know the management stuff, and we kept having conversations where I'm like, hey man, have you ever thought about maybe doing this or doing that? And Anthony and I speak a lot of the same language. You see a problem, fix a problem, and next thing you know, I'm managing the North District.
He was a district. He started managing multiple stores. Yeah.
And then I got the South District. I was kind of like the guy, and I was going all over the place. And man, we had back at that time 12, 15 stores. And they were in all the malls. I was traveling up and down the Wasatch Front, opening them, closing them, hiring, firing, training, doing all this stuff. And man, it's
a lot of work.
A lot of work. First time I ever had a panic attack was working for Mr. Morrison. Like I was driving up to the Ogden store because it didn't get opened again. And man, I thought I was having a heart attack. Like it was the first time that I realized like I've got to figure this out. Like that when you're doing high pressure sales, high pressure, a lot of demand, you have to start taking care of yourself. And I put on a lot of weight. I don't know if you remember, like I was pretty chubby.
Just for my own knowledge here, so we got Navy. What was it? Where did it fit in the timeline for you personally?
I had done being in law enforcement, and it was after the Olympics.
2004
after the Olympics, and I kind of came across this business partner of mine, and him and I were working together. We started building. We were working for another company. I went out to California, and I installed for a summer and I really learned the nuts and bolts of the dish business.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I came back and I said, why are we working for this dude? Similar story. Well, let's do this on our own. So Chris and I started out on our own, and man, we were killing it.
Not Bowen.
No. My proclivity for business partners named Chris is pretty high. Really high.
Another Chris.
Yeah. So is Chris your name anywhere? Topher?
Yes.
Topher, maybe?
Over there.
It's Chris with the C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man. Anyway, so yeah, just kind of stumbled into Mr. Morrison, and back then he had a dude. I can't remember his name, but he never wore socks. That guy.
Mike.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mike. He was a KPMG guy.
KPMG?
Yeah, like an accounting firm.
Oh yeah. Big bald guy.
Yeah.
He'd wear like his pants would be like high, tight pegged legs, and he would wear like Italian leather shoes with no socks. Drive me crazy. Big dude.
Yeah.
Big dude.
Yeah.
Someone like that should be wearing socks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are some stinky harachas or whatever they call those.
I can't believe I forgot his last name.
Kilpatrick?
Kilpatrick. Michael Kilpatrick.
Michael Kilpatrick.
Yeah.
And then he had another guy that he had brought on, and his name was Tim Fisher.
Tim Fisher, yeah.
He is like Rain Man level organized. Like if you were to take the DISC test, his
MBA.
SC.
Really?
Yep. MBA guy.
He is wicked smart. And so he was kind of like systemizing all of the things because all the stores were kind of wide open at the time. People were doing things different, and we weren't putting in the same boxes and the same bags.
Yeah, we needed to standardize.
So he helped us standardize.
Yep.
And it was the wild west of cell phones. It was nuts. I just remember being like astounded. Like, did we just had like a $1 million day.
Yeah.
After not selling anything for a month.
Yeah. It was wild, man.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then we would be out of product, and we would have spiffs on products and all this. Oh man, it was nuts.
Yeah, we were moving product as much as we could.
And there was people coming from all over the country to see what we were doing because it was unprecedented. We were kind of like a rogue. In my memory, we were kind of a rogue venture. It didn't make sense that we were being so successful.
Yep.
And people would spend time in the stores just scratching their head like, I don't know what Randy Seymour's doing over there. I don't know what Randy's doing.
We were a motley crew that just knew how to sell, man.
Yeah.
We were pushing product.
A couple of guys, Randy for one. I fired Randy probably 5 times. I bet 5 times. One time I almost threw him in the fountain out in Southtown Mall. Yeah. You know where the Victoria's Secret is in Southtown Mall? Yeah. We had a little store right there, and I just had enough. And I'm like, if you don't leave right now, Randy, I'm going to throw you in the fountain out there. Yeah. And he's like, you wouldn't do it. And I'm like, Randy, give me an excuse, buddy.
That's funny.
That's the kind of business it was. It was like sometimes we were on the verge of knuckle fights, like in team meetings. Like it was terrible and awesome. I learned so much. We went out to Arkansas, Anthony and I, and we went to see the DirecTV. That's where our DirecTV's headquarters is.
Was it Perfect 10?
Perfect 10.
Perfect 10.
They were our distributor. We were the sub for them. Yeah. And man, we went out there, and it was the first time I'd ever done like a real business trip with just like a dude, a bro. Yeah. And I was nervous. You know, this is my boss. We went out there. I had so much fun. I left half of my luggage in the hotel room.
It was a fun spot.
It was a fun spot. Anthony was jumping off the elevator. Like he'd roll off the elevator, which you shouldn't do anymore as a senior citizen. The door would open and he would roll off and he'd stand up and he'd be holding his hand like this and he'd like look around and then I would walk off like I was like a elected official or some shit. And we would go walking off down the thing.
Judo rolls
out of the elevator. Hilarious. I hadn't laughed that hard and I'm like, this guy knows how to live his life. Like he's doing all of these things. He opened up my perspective on what it looked like to be happy.
Huh.
Yeah. Because at that time I was in a very strict dogma and I had a very limiting belief on what success and happiness was. And this guy was none of those things. He was none of those things. And he was judo rolling off of elevators, just laughing his nuts off. And we went into a Waffle House in Arkansas.
It's like 3 in the morning.
3 in the morning. We had no business being there. And he was whiter than I was at the time. Like we walked in there and he said, very loud, yelled, I need some waffles.
Grits.
Grits,
yeah.
Grits. You guys sell grits? And that place was loaded, was clear full of black people. And they all just like turned their heads like, what is happening over there? And I'm like, I don't know.
Well, the thing, we don't have grits in Utah.
We don't.
And, you know, I grew up with a lot of black friends in Lynwood. Yeah. And, man, their grits are so good.
So good.
I was excited for some grits.
I need some grits. He yells.
They were like, oh, baby, come over here.
Yeah, we were hits. They loved us. They're like, when they fed us grits, man, we walked out and they're just like, Oh man, changed my perspective on living though. That trip, it was an eye opener. I was very strict in my dogma, and I said, hey, I think I'd like a cooler, a wine cooler, a spritzer.
Well, I remember, when we went out to I don't know, it was a bar or something, and
It's on the Riverwalk.
Yeah, Riverwalk.
Right there in Arkansas.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Piano bars. I was like, wow, this is a really cool place. It was popping.
It was popping.
So we went in and we're having some drinks, and Rob's letting loose.
I was sober up until that
Yeah,
minute.
and he like the dogma you were talking about,
Yeah.
right? He was like, Rob was like, there was a tremendous amount. I was like, dude, we're bros. Like, don't even worry about it, man. But he felt bad that I saw him have a drink. I'm like, dude, you're having a good time, man. We're good. So he loosened up, and we had a great time.
We had a great time. We had a great time. That was the very first time that I had really kind of let go and I thought this is a slippery slope because I don't know. I want to do this again. When can we do this again?
Yeah.
I was always looking for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so Anthony was like my secret pleasure. You know what I mean? I hate to say it that way, but he was my guy, and I felt totally safe with you. We had that friendship right away that I knew, regardless of my behavior, you were going to be my friend.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think that's why you've held friends for so long.
True that.
What is it about you that makes that just like your a core belief?
I don't know. I really, I think correct me if I'm not understanding the question, like core belief in people in general?
You're not really throwing some judgment down.
Oh.
Like you were really kind of just letting me be myself without that weight of just like,
Yeah, I mean, I try to leave the judging to the man upstairs, right? That's for him. For me, I want to take people at face value. Like that's who they are. That's who they are at this time. They might not be like that tomorrow. Like if they're having a hard time, I just take them. Come as you are, right? That's kind of the motto. Like come as you are. If you're a crazy, drug addict or whatever it is, that's just where they are. Mm-hmm. And so they're human. They're people. They need to be loved too. So even the people that are hard to love, I try to love them. So that's just how I'm wired, and I'm naturally wired to. I'm an extrovert, so I get energy from being around people. Mm-hmm. So I do like alone time, but I gather energy from being around people. Yeah. So I enjoy being around people.
Yeah.
Also, it was a spritzer, Rob. He came from Lynwood. He was just laughing at you. There was nothing to tell or judge.
I know. But in my perspective, where I was coming from, this was a mortal sin.
That's fair.
Mortal sin.
Yeah. He felt really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. He made me sign a contract. I'm not signing that contract.
I did not.
I'm just messing around.
I did not.
I need you to sign this.
Yeah,
You can't disclose this.
Initial here.
Hush money. Hush money.
Oh, man. But I remember even afterwards, like a long time afterward, you'd be like, hey, remember that time?
Yeah.
On the river walking, I'd be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was the time at Connected Wireless was a terrible, wonderful.
Yeah. There was ups and downs,
yeah,
like for you, especially for you. There was a lot going on in your life, personally, and like Rob. Like when Rob's on his A game, the guy's a monster. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just a natural leader. So that's why he was in the position that he was in, because
It's only like 6% of the time, though.
No. I mean, you can see it now, right? Like look what's happened because he's instigated that. He's made it happen. So
thank you. I appreciate that. You were the first person to see that in me and to give me the trust in that regard, and it was just a huge boost for me. There's a lot of times that I reflect back and I'm like, well, I've done that. I've done harder things. That was hard. Yeah. This is nothing compared to that,
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that giving me the vote of confidence.
Yeah,
huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely, man.
Really helped me be who I am today.
Yeah.
So Connected Wireless is up and running, and Anthony, your ego was really very tied to the success of.
It was.
You were Mr. Connected Wireless. Like that was your game, and people would call all the time with expectations. Hey man, hook me up, give me a deal. And so you'd be dishing business off to all these different salespeople. Where are you at? Oh, I'm out in West Valley. Okay, go by and go see John or whoever it is. And he just had like, it was almost like a family style business. All these outlaws and in-laws and these people were all in the business. And you had like your brother oftentimes would come and go, and he would come in, and John, wildly talented, John Paul, talented guy. His ability to build rapport is
like crazy.
I've never met anyone that like you meet this guy and you're like, you just want to be this guy's friend. You trust him
so talented
immediately. Like, and it's just because he's so authentic. Like, this is what you get. He's not really running a hustle. I mean, he was running a hustle.
Yeah, he was.
But
he's running multiple
hustles all the time, but not with me. Like what I saw is what I got from the guy. I never felt like he was treating me any way other than just genuinely, authentically John.
Yeah.
And it was weirdly comforting. Like, I would just see people come in and they'd be like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And they'd walk out with like 3 bags of devices. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he had it going on. A super handsome kid. He had it going on, man.
Yeah, John.
Yeah.
But wireless kind of comes to an end.
Yeah. So at the time, I sold it in 2015. You know, obviously when Tim was there, we had to build processes to streamline our growth, right? You can't grow and continue to be an outlaw. So we adapted and we put processes in place, and you know, we cookie cut everything, right? Even from our planogram of how the store looked to our uniforms. I mean, we became a professional sales company. So at the time, it was pretty difficult with Sprint because they kept changing their identity. So we became this Sprint exclusive dealer. You know, they switched different CEOs. So the
new
partnership,
new logo now, new colors, new everything.
You know, and then so I started to get probably burnt out about 2012. There was a lot going on in my life, my personal life, and you know, I was ready to leave. As a matter of fact, that in 2012 was when I went on a journey to discover, you know, who I was, who God was, and there's a story behind that with my brother. And so I'm like, you know, maybe it's time to move on from this. So I started actually praying. You know, I was like, God, you know, help me to get out of this business. And he did. I didn't like the way he did it, but he did.
Answer prayer sometimes.
Yeah, man. I didn't like the way he did it. Man. It really hurt my ego, like really bad. So around 2014, you know, I wasn't one to what's the word, schmooze, appease maybe directors, the powers that may be, right? That may be with like Sprint. I'd say, hey, this, you know, we're winning awards, we're killing it. Like, I don't need to answer to you. This is, you know, I will be compliant in these things. You know, I don't need you to tell me what to do.
Sure.
So there was this one lady who I pissed her off. She was an area director in the Pacific Northwest, and at the time I had 10 stores. And so she decided to cancel my contract, give me a 30-day notice. So I play this game with them, say I'm going to sell all my stores to T-Mobile, and they start backing off. And anyway, I ended up selling that particular division. I think that was 2012. And then and at the time that this happened, I heard the news. I was hosting an area vice president and 2 area directors, Chad Curtis, the manager, and some reps. I took them out to a VIP jazz game. We're sitting like kind of courtside, and I get the news right there in front of like my managers, these guys, hey, Sandy's going to cancel you. And so I didn't even react to it. So it was, I guess the area VP was so impressed of my stoicness, and I wasn't trying. I just like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about that right now because we're enjoying this moment.
Sure.
I'm entertaining these people. I can worry about that stuff later. That he offered me growth in Texas and Oklahoma.
No kidding.
Yeah, man. It's like,
He's like, you don't work for her. Come over here.
Yeah, he said it worked out. It's like, hey, we got some stores. We're going to give you money to open up these stores. So it ended up being a good situation.
Huh.
So anyway, things started changing. I wasn't really engaged as much anymore, and you know, Sprint decided to move on. You know, they said, hey, you know, we basically, without telling me, I saw the writing on the wall, so I had to sell my stores. So I didn't like the way, like I said, it was answer to prayer, but I didn't like the way it happened. So I sold my stores. I had stores in Oklahoma, Texas, and Utah at the time. and retired for like 6 months. And that was in 2015. So finished the transaction March of 2015, retired for like, it wasn't even 6 months, probably 90 days. And I got into the real estate game, started flipping homes. So, that was a whole another skill set that I had to learn, right? Just procuring the property, seller finance deals. And Rob actually sold quite a few of the homes.
Were you already in the real estate game at this
He was.
point?
Yep,
So we flipped roles a little bit then.
But no, not really. Anthony still was, be in the entrepreneurial mindset, finding a problem. And I was working for Anthony as his real estate agent. I was fortunate enough that he trusted me to bring me on and helped him sell a couple homes.
Yep.
And it's always an adventure with Anthony because he's a negotiator. There's often times, and I know that I shouldn't say this, but there's times where I just want to kind of get out of the way. Just be like, Anthony, get him. and go. Because Anthony is much more, abrupt isn't the right word, but man, you just drop it like it is. And I'm trying to make it like, okay, here's how we're going to do it. Let's make this nice for everybody. No, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to go or not. Yeah. And it's I always learn a lot when I did a deal with Anthony because I come away with a better ability to negotiate because I'm like, that actually went. I can't believe that actually worked. That guy knows what he's doing over there.
Is that something that you work on, or is it a natural gift?
No, I don't really work on it, man. It's just who I am.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I've gone to some sales classes to try to help refine and understand like how it works, like a sales process. But it's just how I'm wired,
Well, you have an amazing ability to like extrapolate the bottom line. Like you can look at the thing and this much. Like you're. A lot of people need spreadsheets to do that. Anthony is like he's like Rain Man, and that's going to be, I'm going to need $32,000 in order to make this look good. And away we go. $32,525.
Prime on right Kmart.
Oh, man. Anthony and I actually went to South Africa together.
We did.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Safari?
Yeah, we flew to New York for what?
I said the safari?
A safari, yeah. Flew to New York. First time in New York. That was nuts. And then we got on the plane and we flew, was it 16 hours?
Johannesburg.
To Joburg. Yeah. Flew down there. And that town, it's lovely. It's got this general urine odor.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go.
It was cold. It was in July and it was cold. It was like 30. At night it was like 35.
Yeah.
30.
Wow.
We were there at the wrong time of year.
Yeah.
We didn't know that. And I've never seen a movie about Africa where they're just not sweating.
That's fair.
They're just shiny they're glistening in sweat. And we go down there and it is like the dead of winter, June for them. Yeah. Right?
No, we were there in July.
Dead of winter. They're wearing like the sleeping bag coats with the, that looks like a sleeping bag that has the sleeves and a hole cut in the top. And it was nuts. It was crazy down there. They drive on the wrong side of the road.
Oh man.
They speak. There's so many dialects of African, and then they speak also a South African, which is a Dutch English blend.
Afrikaan.
Yeah. And just it was a. And I tell people, oh yeah, I went to South Africa. We rented a car and we drove around, and they're like, you did what?
Yeah. You have to use a stick shift with your left hand.
I actually
was like, okay. Yeah. Everything's backwards.
Yeah, and his wife, this is a funny story. We were leaving the airport, and the car was rented under Christie, and so she had to get in the car to drive it out of the airport. And we got to the on-ramp. Like, we left the garage to the on-ramp. So we weren't even out of the garage yet. And she's like, F this! And she, like, pulls the brake and gets out, and Anthony and I are like, whoa, okay. One of us jumped in, and we drove it. It was nuts. And we were all looking the wrong way. You know what I mean? Like when you're in America, you get to the corner, you're like looking for traffic to come, and you pull out. No, it's coming from the other way.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
The weirdest thing about a right-hand drive car, though, is the blinkers and the windshield wipers. Did you discover that? Like you're constantly, you don't even think about it, but they're flipped backwards. And you would also think that the pedals would be flipped. They're not. It's in the exact same place. Yeah. You're just sitting on the wrong place.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It was an adventure, and we drove probably the distance of like from Salt Lake to like Vegas.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
It was a lot of driving.
And we were they're of course they're metric, so they were going kilometers per hour, and I was like driving in the miles per hour. And so we're blazing down the road, like going 3 times the speed limit.
Oh, shit.
Roughly. Like I'm like, why is everyone going so slow?
Yeah.
And I'm like NASCAR. And
He was too, man. He's
tearing it
like
up,
a
and
maniac.
then I realized, it's the metric system down here. We went in and ordered pizza on the way down, and we're like, well, what do you got? It was a Pizza Hut. They had KFCs and Pizza Huts in that place, which is like, okay, finally we get some food. American food. We went in, we're like, would like a what did we were going to order? What's the biggest pizza you've got? And they're like, oh, it's because we're hungry. We want the family size, and it was like a personal
Family
pan.
size?
Yeah, this was a family size. It was like this big. And we're like, we'll take 4 of those. Remember, we ordered a bunch, and they're like, okay. Like, it was a big sell of the day.
Yeah.
Crazy. It was a crazy trip.
It was crazy because we were prepared, like,
For summer.
we had like mosquito clothing. Christy bought this clothing, my wife, that had like built-in DEET.
Yeah.
There was no mosquitoes out there.
None. We got yellow fever shots
Yeah.
because we were afraid that we were going to get the Nile virus and all kinds of stuff. But it was nuts. We went on. We were in this reserve. We're actually in 2 reserves, 3 really. More actually. We were in 4 different reserves. One was like for hippopotamuses, and we were out there on this boat, rowing around, drinking beer.
That was crazy.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
Hippos are mean. You
They
gotta
are
be
mean.
careful.
They kill more people
than like
any other animal down there. When you sit, I swam in the what ocean was that? The Indian Ocean.
Indian Ocean. Yep.
I swam in the Indian Ocean. Is when you're walking down, like when you're California, you walk down. There's like sharks and jellyfish. There was like alligators, sharks, jellyfish, and hippopotamuses on the side.
Well, crocodile.
And crocodiles. Yeah, crocodiles.
Saltwater crocs.
Oh, jeez.
And so we're walking down to the beach, and I'm like, hey, you want to go swimming? And Anthony's like, no.
Yeah.
I saw the sign.
Hippo, crocodiles, sharks. I'm like, nah.
No.
I'm good, dude.
And Annie's like, this is where they film Shark Week, is in the Indian Ocean. Like, this is where Shark Week gets filmed. And I'm like, what a way to go. I'm out there, like, body surfing. Like, if I'm going to go, can you imagine, like, man, I knew this guy, Rob Adams.
Shark in the Indian Ocean.
This guy's
That
a great
makes sense.
swimmer. I'm not a good swimmer, dude. So I'm like,
All those years in the Navy, man.
Yeah.
Forced it out of me. Also, that was how when I grew up, kind of poor. We couldn't afford daycare, so my folks would put me in swimming lessons all day. Oh. So I would be like, I'd start out as a beginner, and then by the end of the day, we're doing butterfly, like advanced, intermediate swimming.
That's awesome.
I love to swim.
I remember you told me that story.
Yeah. And so I'd be out in the ocean swimming, and I just would like keep seeing the shadows of like a hippo kind of cruising through, because they can move in the water.
Oh, yeah.
They can haul. And but I lived. I
Yeah.
made it.
Dude, we were on this like houseboat on the river with the hippos, and I remember I was holding like a hippo tooth, right? And we had a couple of a tusk. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then like Rob's like, get over there and take a picture, and he's like make a pose, and of course he's just being a clown. He's making me hold this stupid tusk for like 5 minutes. You didn't take the picture or what? It's like I'm holding the pose. He's just laughing. He's like, it's like, you asshole, man.
So funny. And remember, you had the binoculars. I gave you the binoculars, and you had a full beer. And those beers, Africans love beer. So he had the beer in his hand. And he takes the binoculars and he puts them up in the beer. He's like running on his shirt. We were just clowning each other the whole time. And he was using this word, bumbaclouts.
Oh yeah, bumbaclot. Yeah.
Bumbaclouts, which is a really bad word.
Yeah, I know.
In South Africa. And there was a couple guys that were like, brother,
Yeah.
do not say that.
Oh, and it was during election.
Oh yeah,
season.
yeah.
Oh.
There was a lot of people campaigning. Tribes. There's a lot of tribes in South Africa.
There was like 14 candidates for president. It wasn't like here in the United States where we've got 2. You know what I mean? Where you got the Democrats and you got the Republicans, and then every once in a while there's independents. It's all independents.
Yeah.
Every tribe has their own candidate.
Yeah.
And so we would be driving to a town. They're all wearing yellow shirts with a picture of this lady on there. And then we go to the next town, and they're all wearing green shirts with a picture of this dude on there. And they're partying. Like town after town are just like campaigning like crazy. It was...
What?
Yeah, it was pretty wild, man. It's like we're hanging out on the beach, and ladies are with us, and local dudes would just roll up and pull out their thing and just take a leak in front of us. It's like, dude, I got no manners. Like, really? Okay.
Just a different,
Yeah.
whole different culture.
Whole different culture.
I'm like, all right, bro.
But just
what you
peeing
do.
wherever you.
Wherever you want.
Wherever
They had a thing where if they said if you hit someone in your car, if you're driving a car and you hit someone, don't stop. You remember that? don't stop, because people would run up. It was like a plan. Like they would have, okay, let's see who's getting hit today. You're getting hit today, because yesterday was your turn.
Yeah.
And Anthony would get hit by a car, and then we'd all run out and rob the people in the car.
Yeah.
Like it was nuts.
That was one thing that was really kind of fascinating to me. Like we were going 80 miles per hour, and people, like, you have like that, the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
People are walking on they weren't on the inside, they were outside the shoulder, like where the car should be. And they would not even look or even worry about them being hit.
Really?
Yeah. I'm just like, oh, that's crazy.
And they're all wearing clothes. They all look like road cones. I was like, what? These guys all, they road work? Like, what do they do? No, they would wear that clothing so you wouldn't run them over. They would wear reflective clothing. And just, that's how they would, that was their garb.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, South Africa was pretty cool. That was a trip. What about the little detour we did, though? On Google Maps.
Here we go. Google Maps is amazing in South Africa.
Really?
Yeah. We drove from our little reservation in a town called Tutui. That's how I'm saying it wrong.
Tutui?
Tutui.
Yeah.
And we had South Africans like, no. You say Tutui, and I'd be like, Tutui. And they'd be like, no, it's Tutui. It was, they has all these letters that make all these weird sounds. Anyway, we went to the beach. We were at the Indian Ocean, and we came back, and it's like, make a left turn here. And they have these rubber trees, plantations. And you kind of pull in, it's like a dirt road, like, all right, cool, we're going down this dirt road. And it's getting dark.
Uh-oh.
This is my perspective. Anthony has a different perspective than I do. We were driving along, and then it's like, turn right. And we would turn right, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad we're in a Jeep. Like, this is getting kind of, rougher road. Turn left. And now we're going through, like, it's like a game trail. We're driving around trees that have fallen over. We're driving around them. What? Like we're in the woods. And then there's like a complex over there with like a sodium light. And I'm like, this is how people like go missing. Like all these people are going to show up with like old AK-47s.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm too pretty. I'm just going to say, like, look at these blue eyes.
That's fair.
I would be a popular item. And so I'm getting nervous. And Anthony's like, no, turn left and turn right. And everybody's, because of the way that the traffic was down there, like everybody was a backseat driver. Like we were all looking out. And then it's like, turn here and turn here. Next thing you know, we're like driving up this hill. And then we're on the freeway on the way home.
Yeah,
What?
it was like a 4 or 5 mile detour.
It took off like 45 minutes of driving through these different towns, but it was through the woods, man.
Yeah.
And I was getting nervous, like, man, we better turn around.
Wait, and Google Maps had that route lined up?
They did.
Yeah.
No kidding.
It was wild. I was like, I don't know where this is leading us, but let's go.
Yeah.
Like.
And we drove up. It was like the hill that we drove up was on a bridge. So imagine driving up on I-15, like one of the overpasses. How they have that's the angle that we were driving up, and then up onto the road, and then we were back.
Better just floor it when you get up there.
Yeah. Well, the whole way we're driving right at the top of that thing, and I'm like, we're turning around.
Yeah.
And Anthony's like, no. We're like yelling at one another. No, go straight. We still got. No, we're turning around. It was it was one of those times on the trip where like. Our friendship was kind of
people were
in the balance.
stressed. Yeah, it was in the balance. No, we're going to get murdered in the woods. There was no lights. It was completely dark.
It was
nutty.
It was dark, but we made it.
We lived.
Huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. After we got back from Africa, we didn't talk for like 2 years. Like I can't even look Anthony in the eye right now. I was ashamed of my behavior that night.
You're good, dude.
Yeah, it's a crazy trip.
You know I love you, man.
I know you do. Yeah. I know you do. We saw elephants while we were there. Rambo.
Lions.
Tell them about the lions.
Dude, crazy. We had this dude. He looked like a chubby version of Steve Irwin.
He totally did.
Yeah, he did, man.
Like
he
the
was
shorts and the boots,
everything,
all of it.
And he spoke South Afrikaans. So he'd be like, and you're like, bro, what? And he's like, take off your shoes, or like whatever it was, like simple instructions. Like we didn't have to say it really slow.
Yeah.
Steve Irwin.
Yeah. One of the guys in our group was that he was on commercials. Remember?
Oh yeah. The bro tater chip guy.
Yeah. The guy
that was doing the curls, and he's like, "What do you got there?" And he's like, "It's man. How did that go?"
He starts out as like this skinny guy in the
Yeah.
Geico commercial.
That's right.
And then every pump he does, he gets bigger.
Yeah.
And then the last one, he's like this bump. That guy Nick. His name was Nick.
And he had on the shirt of the words, like it was like bro tater chip and bro Cephas. They were like talking to each other. And
protein shake.
Protein shake. And
Oh
like
my God.
it's funny. And he's like sitting in there, and I'm like, I know you.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's up, bro? And I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
you're the Geico guy.
Rob knew it, man. I was like, dude, I'm like, man, I didn't know you were into Geico. I was like, all right.
Oh yeah, it was a good commercial.
Yeah.
Haven't seen him since. That was the highlight of his career, I would imagine.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, that Lion Pride was pretty amazing. We went on it was an early morning trip, right?
Yeah.
So they had this, so I guess the male lion just rarely comes around the Pride. It just comes around during hunts once in a while. So we get to the destination where this entire Pride was, and they're just like full. They just eating a big antelope or something, and you can see their bellies. They're just all napping, and the main lion, the male, they call it the mane, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just hanging out. And we're just taking pictures. We're like literally, when we're sitting on the high top Jeeps, right?
Like a box of Peeps.
Yeah.
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 Imagine a box of Peeps, but there's humans, and we're in this truck, and it's like stadium seating, and there's like 9 or 12 of us all kind of sitting in this like a box of Peeps. That's how I imagined us, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, these lions.
Yeah.
We look like a box of Peeps. Yeah.
Seriously. He's like, nah, they just say you guys are fine. I'm like, well, we're really close.
Don't make any noise.
Yeah. It was cool though.
I'm over there eating my sunflower seeds.
Do lions straight up attack humans though?
I'm sure
Not that day.
Not that day, no. They were stuffed.
They were just laying around, and I would say there was the one big male, and I would estimate his weight to be 200, 250 pounds. Like,
It was bigger than that.
Yeah, it has to be bigger.
he was
than
a
that.
big cat. Like he was.
Yeah.
You think
He's probably 500 pounds.
he was a
400 or 500 or
easily
something.
then. He was huge,
Yeah.
and then there was, if I said 12 or 13 females.
There's a lot.
A lot of females, all just kind of walking around, cruising, doing, they were working, doing the Pride thing. And we just kind of pulled right up in the middle. And there was another box of Peeps over there with their cameras. And we're just taking pictures. We sat there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, just parked in the middle of lions that have no cage. There was no cage to protect us. We're like an open box of Peeps.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It was way humbling. The animals that we met it was just humbling because you're right there. We ate ostrich. We had a buck.
Oh, the biltong. I kept going. I was on a biltong mission.
Biltong jerky. This guy was like, "Where's Anthony?" Always getting some biltong jerky. It was a type of deer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, delicious. And we had warthog, which, by the way, is my favorite. Pork of the pork family.
No kidding.
Super lean, really good.
Yeah. Biltong's a type of seasoning, but they use it for the deer, but a lot of different. But I remember going to that South African shop, man, that butchery shop. Man, that was a pretty cool.
Oh, I
like
bet you could
butcher
get
shop.
all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah, just meat hanging everywhere. It was like I'm a meat dude, man. So I was in heaven. I was like, yes, give me your best biltong you got, man.
Oh man, quite a trip.
Yeah.
Learned a lot about just about how ignorant we are as Americans. Just like walking around. Walking around in the city we had no business walking around in. There was one time when on the way back, we came back into Jayburg and we went out to the market and we're walking around buying fruit and stuff, and there wasn't any white people for miles.
Mm-hmm.
Johannesburg was taken over during the apartheid, and a lot of the plains people or tribal people moved into the city, and a lot of the white South Africans fled to Cape Town.
Yep.
And so they had these huge high rises, and in the high rises they didn't know how to run the HVAC or the plumbing. These are literally plainsmen.
Yeah.
And so they would knock the windows out and just build fires in there, and so all the buildings, all the high rises looked like they had been
on fire.
Like it was like Thunderdome.
Wow.
Does that seem accurate? Remember, that's my memory of it. It was a crazy place to go. We went over they had a big brewery there, and we're like getting on the bus, and it's getting dark, and people are like, "You guys are going home, right?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're headed home."
Yeah.
We just got so lucky that we never got robbed or pulled over by the police and blackmailed. Like, yeah, you give us money and we'll let you keep going. Like, and I think that one time we got pulled over by the cops. You remember at that checkpoint? And the guy's like, "Where are you going?" And we're like, "Tutui." And he's like, "No, that's not how you say it."
Yeah.
It seemed like he had that look in his eye, like, I could take these guys.
Maybe.
I had that feeling from this.
I don't know, dude. I don't know if you could have, but hey.
Not take us. Like, I'm gonna have these guys pull over, and we're gonna do the
try to hustle us,
shake us down.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Couldn't take us. I mean, look at us.
Wow.
Yeah. Amazing trip. So I tell you this story because this is kid that was in Lynwood, is now a world traveler. You know what I mean?
On a safari.
On safari.
in
He's
Africa.
a seasoned entrepreneur that's doing these deals and doing all these things. And I look at like how, as I've known Anthony, even when I met him, he was kind of that, that diamond in the rough kind of a, situation. He just kind of had that little bit of a rough edge. And then over these past 20 years, I've seen this man change from that person into this person, which is someone who's going to church regularly, that holds callings, that spends time in men's groups and helping other people grow in the Word.
Sure.
And it's amazing to watch the change. Can we talk a little bit about that? And I don't want to get into too much detail, but like, why would this successful entrepreneur, like he had it all together, why would he need to make this change?
Well, so 2012 had a lot of personal stuff, and obviously I experienced, I guess, what you would call worldly success. Money, travel. I mean, pretty much do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. But it was an empty feeling for me, right? Like I just wasn't fulfilled. So when I sold my business in 2015, well, I started on this journey to discover who is God. Because obviously in the Philippines, growing up, I went to church.
Very Catholic, though.
Yeah, but it was like I didn't have a personal relationship.
It was just a thing.
Yeah, it was just a thing. It was a thing we did. And so I went on this self-discovery, like, okay, like, who am I? Like, what is my identity? Like, how does who is this God guy? So I went on this journey and just realized that, okay, once I realized that, man, I'm a really broken person. I have it together from a worldly perspective. Like I have it together. People like want my life. People respect me, and I perform and I do all these things. But inside there was a lot of turmoil. There was a lot of chaos. There wasn't any peace. So I just said, okay, well, how do I get rid of that? That turmoil. I just built a relationship with God. So what does that look like? It's hanging out with like-minded people. Like you had Bob Silverthorne on here, right?
The amazing Bob Silverthorne. Yeah.
We were been in a lot of men's groups together, got really vulnerable, identified like problems and how to solve those problems. And, it's kind of hard to describe. It's still a work in progress for me, right? It's a continuous journey until the day that I die. Right. So I always want to progress, whether it's in business or whether it's in my relationship with my kids or, having a close relationship with God, with Jesus, specifically. And so, for me, understanding how I'm wired from a worldly standpoint, to how does God see me from his standpoint? That's totally different, right? He sees me a lot different than maybe how this other person sees me. So being able to identify how I'm viewed in God's truth versus like a human truth is totally different. So it's just this discovery, and it's really challenging. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Because we both have a right and left hand, most of us, and we can make things happen quickly, right? Hey, if I want to change something, I can make that happen quickly. But when you commit to a relationship with Christ, it's like, oh my gosh, like he's telling you truths. Like he's like, I'm not really that person. I'm not this amazing scientist. This is what I believe about myself, which is a much lower expectation than how he sees you. He sees us as a brilliant scientist or someone that can cure cancer or someone that can move mountains, and human beings have a smaller view of themselves. So, that's kind of my journey right now with trying to figure out, how I fit into this world and how I can give to this world. So, and lately I haven't had, because we started a FedEx business a little over 3 years ago, I have a business partner, so I've been entrenched in that. But I want to incorporate what I've learned into that business and how I treat people. And, so I don't want it to be different because I have a business. What I do is, okay, whether I go to church, whether I'm at home, or whether I'm at work, or whether I'm here, it's the same. I'm not going to be a churchy dude because I go to church. There's going to be some reverence, but I'm going to show that reverence to wherever I am. Of course, if we're boys, we're going to be joking around and being dudes, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if that makes sense or not. It's kind of...
No, it makes tremendous sense. I think that you've always had... Sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I think you've always had the ability to be consistently authentic. Like, what you see is what you get with Anthony. Yeah. And I've always admired that about you because you, from my perspective, from my outside perspective, and of course I don't see what's on the inside, but it just seemed like you were already pretty secure with who that identity was.
Yeah.
But you weren't finding the happiness or fulfillment, maybe is a better word.
Yeah.
Because happiness is kind of a fleeting thing.
Right.
And so in this journey of realizing your true identity, which is the definition of how God would perceive you.
Right.
Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
In that clarity, the hard work would be what? Is it just continually remembering that?
Yeah, because look, it doesn't, obviously Jamie Winship, you probably heard that name a couple of times.
Certainly.
If I said, hey, you know what, you're a loser. You'll always be a loser. And it's not hard. It's really easy to actually believe that. Because when I leave it, like, am I really a loser?
Well, your internal dialogue
internal
is saying
dialogue.
it anyway.
Yeah.
It's because you're a bum anyway. Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm telling you that. Well, God doesn't talk to you that way. He does not talk to you that way. He says, Rob, you're a beautiful human being. You're a beautiful creature. This is why I created you. I created you to lead. I created you to help start foundations and to help feed people and all these little beautiful things, right? But we have this propensity to go back and listen to, the adversary.
The devil on the shoulder.
The devil on the shoulder, man.
Yeah, man.
And then that fear is what cripples people, right? Fear. So yeah, it's like anything in life. If you don't exercise that spirituality, you're going to lose it. Yeah.
Huh. I like that perspective. I like how you put that. That's interesting. The other part of that in the discovering who you are in that journey that I see you doing is the, really, you've always been a leader. I've never known you not to be that leader. I can imagine when you were a little kid, you were like, we're playing tag. This is how it's going to go. But in the men's groups that you've associated with, and I've been lucky enough to be a part of, you are now a facilitator for those men's group. You're creating leadership in that area. Is this a common condition among men? This
lead?
No, the self-perpetuating, this self-degrading language that we're using.
Yeah, I believe so.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's just the world. It's jealousy. There's a lot of things like that's a tough question, but I think that's just the way our world is wired. I'm not saying there's a lot of great people out there, but there's also people that are out to get you. Especially if you're doing something really good, for others, and somebody's having a tough time in life, and maybe they want to take that away from you.
You're an easy target.
Easy target.
So that's interesting. Interesting stuff. In your journey to do so, then how do you keep present in the identity?
Well, it's having a group, like you guys have a group, right? It's having like-minded people around you that are, going for the same thing. So I have guys that are Christ followers. Like my brother is a strong Christ follower, and he helps me. He prays for me. Scott Lofton, great guy. Bob Silverthorne. There's a couple of guys that I connect with.
They're brothers.
They're brothers.
Yeah.
And so knowing that there's people that have my back is great. So that helps me, and it helps me, when we get together and get vulnerable, because it's hard for men to get vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to do that.
To tell the truth.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how you doing? I'm good.
Yeah, that's all you get.
Classic, right?
Wall, boom.
Good. Oh, everything's good.
Yeah.
Is it? You know, I'm guilty of that all the time. I'm good because I maybe don't want to tell people how I really feel.
Yeah.
But to my bros, I will.
That's interesting. That's interesting. When that we talk a lot about this here at the American Masterminds group, and we have a pretty good tribe. We've got a pretty good group of dudes, and we're selective of who we're let in and keep in, and just just like any group.
Right.
Excuse me. The thing. Edit this part.
You want to get your drink?
Yeah.
We're doing a drink break?
Yeah. Right.
All right.
Where were you before you started choking?
Yeah. So the thing about the American Masterminds is that we discussed this quite a bit, is that there's, as our father's generation was coming and going, there was bowling leagues and the Elk Lodge and all of these different things where men could get together and just be dudes. And I remember my folks would have game night. Yeah. And everybody on the street, regardless of color, orientation, faith, would come together and we'd play Sorry. And cards, and we'd have a couple tables set up, and you're bringing the ribs, and you're bringing the salad, and I'm bringing the beer, and like we were so much more connected. And I think that what we're talking right now is this general disconnect between the world, but men especially. I feel like women, they get together for their Christmas thing, and they get together for the witch run, and they're always getting together to do something. Where us guys are continually like, we get up, we go to work, Christmas, get up, go to work, Christmas, get up, go to work, and the next thing you know, you're 53 years old, and you're wondering, what is this? What And we're alone. The condition that we're discovering as we're doing these interviews is that all of us are on the same journey. In some regard, and this internal dialogue, this language, something I'm fighting with all the time. The book.
I'm terrible with it.
Yeah, we work on that. We're doing gratitudes in the morning in our journaling to change that direction. We're reading books. Untethered Soul is the one that I'm just reading, and Conversations with God, and all these different things to help me understand who my identity is. And so it's. I think this is something that is.
It's across the board.
It's across the board. It's not like just a isolated, like, Anthony's found God. No, we're all of us men are looking for, who am I really? What's this really about? Yeah. How do I have fulfillment in my life? Yeah. Because I've made money. I've made a lot of money. And I'm still, how's that song go? I add another zero and I'm still unhappy today. It doesn't matter. And so I just find that this is an interesting thing, and this connection among men, and I say this in probably almost every podcast that I do. If you don't have a connection with men, find a group. Even if it's a men's group and you're not fully a Christian, it doesn't matter. Get to know these guys because they're all traveling the same road. And you use the word God, I could use the word universe, we could use this different language. It doesn't matter what the language is. It's about trying to be better. It's about trying to find that connection and understanding. I think that's pretty powerful, Anthony, and I see you stepping into that role more and more all the time. Yeah,
I mean, it's the thing with like forgiveness, right? If there's a disconnect between you and somebody else, there's people that I still haven't forgiven yet, and maybe it's preventing me from closing the gap in that relationship, even with my own immediate family. Well,
there's this. It's a funny thing, forgiving, and then let's just talk about that. Like, forgiving doesn't mean I'm going to let you back in and kick me in the nuts. Right. That's not what that means. Right. Forgiving sometimes just means like I'm just not going to give you the negative energy anymore. Yeah. But I'm also not going to go out of my way to make your life hard.
Yep. Yeah. It's just really just letting go of that weight, right? Like, okay, I'm good. I'm
done packing that.
Yeah, I'm done.
Gonna give it away.
That. Yeah, absolutely.
That's brilliant.
Another thing, what can help men or just people in general is just serving. Yeah. When you get out there and serve, you're not thinking about yourself. Some of the best couple years of my recent life is coaching football. I became good friends with who is now my business partner. He got me involved in the FedEx business, and we're growing that business like crazy. But, we coached football for 4 years. And there was a group of men, we still get together, the 5 coaches. We get together every once in a while and just laugh our asses off.
Talk about the days.
And, all these guys are young men now. Yeah. And the second group, they're going to be seniors this year at Brighton. And the majority of them are still playing football. Oh, wow. And in the first group, same thing. There are B teamers that the majority of them still played football all the way through the senior year of high school. Whereas the A teamers did not. So, there's a lot of fulfillment in, being a mentor to young people or just people in general. And so when I'm serving, it takes away the crap, the minutia of, the internal dialogue. Hey, I got to get my act together. I have to be better for people.
Yeah.
Not better than people. I have to be better for people. So I don't have time to have that negative inner dialogue. So I think serving will just alleviate a lot of those problems.
It's powerful medicine.
The
It
banner
really
that we
is.
put that under is raising your frequency,
Yeah.
right? Whether
Yep.
it's serving, finding the men's group,
Right.
having these conversations with guys, it matters, and it helps it gird the loins, right?
Gird the loins. Prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Prepare yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You hear me using the language?
Yeah. Gird the
Gird
loins.
the loins. When we were in Arkansas the one time, I
Sounds
quoted a Galatians scripture out. I quoted it, and these.
At the Waffle House.
No, it was we were checking into the hotel.
Oh.
And there's these two ladies checking us in, and they said something which was almost word for word the scripture out of Galatians, and so I repeated it back, the scripture, and they were like, quoting scriptures, and I was like, it's a different world down here in the South.
Yeah.
You throw down some scripture, you're like, that's your credibility goes up. It was
The Bible Belt, man.
throwing down some words. Well, let me ask you this question, and I'm kind of excited for the answer. And these are the questions I ask on a lot of the podcasts, but I'm excited to ask you this question specifically. I've got two, one after another. So you ready? If Anthony Morrison today, Grandpa Anthony,
Yep.
this guy right here, got a couple white whiskers coming in.
I got a couple. Yeah.
This seasoned man were to go back, and here's this young Anthony that's his first week in Chicago, just kind of got his ass handed to him a little bit.
Yep.
There's this mindset having this shift coming in. There he sits on the bench, and you have a chance to say something to him. You have a chance to give him some wisdom.
Yeah.
What are you going to say?
About that situation?
No.
Yeah.
Just like, what would you tell that boy that would make a difference? It doesn't even have to be about that
Yeah.
situation. Like,
Yeah.
hey, like, it's like that Marty McFly moment where he gets to go back and like, here's the betting book.
Yeah.
What would you say?
That's a great question, man. That Anthony Morrison had a lot of fire in him. He was so full of fire. I would just, as Anthony Morrison now giving that guy advice, that young kid advice, I'd probably tell him, hey, things, like, just let them play out as they may. It's, don't be in a rush. Just let the process flow. Obviously, I'd have to explain it to a 15-year-old in a way that he would understand. I would have to relate to a kid that went from the street. So I would talk to him in more street terminology. Saying, look, man, if you want to have a fulfilling life, if you want to come up, those are the words these are the things that you have to do.
A, B, and C.
A, B, and C. And if you do these things, it will accelerate your life.
What are those things? What is
much
A, B, and C?
faster. Well, go to school, like be disciplined and going to school, which that freshman year, I was pretty dedicated because I was 2.5 years behind.
Had to do catch up.
I worked my ass off.
Yeah.
I was really proud of that moment. Embrace the culture, which I was embracing the culture. I was changing. And man, what would be the third one? I was embracing the moments. There was no doubt about that. Oh, yeah. That would be I did party a lot. I still partied a lot. I would lay off the sauce.
Yeah. Now's the time.
Yep.
Clean up.
Yeah, clean up. Yeah.
Powerful
Yeah.
stuff. Now, let's fast forward now into your life, and you've got your act together. You're back and forth. You're starting. You're in the wireless business,
Right.
And you had this. You're fired. You're out.
Yeah.
And then you go to Arizona, and then that dream is shut down.
Yeah. Shut down.
This young man had these aspirations, this dream, even a plan. Probably you put a lot of emotion into that.
Oh yeah.
What would you tell that guy?
Well, that guy adapted, So I don't know that I would say much to him because the series of events that happened that Anthony adapted and he made it happen. You know, things just kind of fell in line. So I had a tremendous amount of faith in my ability to make things happen, and it just happened. I just, you know, I didn't panic. I was hurt. My ego was hurt, but I pivoted right away, and the situation was better in all actuality, because I had a support group with Prestige Wireless, and they were starving for good salespeople, and I brought value to them, and they brought value to me, and so it launched the empire here. So that particular, I would say to that person, maybe 2 years later, that hold your ego, because I had a big ego, and you know, I wanted to dominate, and you know, I just wanted to dominate, and I was really harsh on people. And I was harsh on people because I did care about them, but it was more truth than grace. So at the time, Christ wasn't living in me at the time. It was like, hey, here's my right hand, here's my left hand. If you don't get this crap done, you're done. I mean, I was firing people that were performers, but if they weren't getting X amount of numbers, I was letting them go. And I would take those people in a heartbeat today, you know, just work with them more. Just let go of the ego, be patient, and work with people. I think if I would have done that early on, the empire would probably have been quadruple. But it just, you know, but we made a lot of disciples, connected disciples. There was a lot of guys that went to that organization that became uber successful, that were bigger than us, and they did extremely well. So I don't have any regrets about that. But yeah, if I could go back, it would just be, you know, patience, ego, because we had a lot of talented people that I just said, F it, go.
Yeah.
See you.
Yeah, I don't need you.
Yep, see you.
That's interesting.
This is more for my own curiosity. What was the catalyst of you finding or refinding God in that path?
That's great. It's my brother. Yeah, my younger brother, Frank Kelly. We call him Kelly. His middle name is Kelly. It's like, wait, who's Frank? Who's Kelly? It's the same guy. So he had went to prison. This is my younger brother, the 4-year-old, right? The guy that looked up to me, the guy that wanted to be like me. And there was a tremendous amount of guilt, like, because he grew up to be this thug, gangster, dealer, hustler. And he finally got pinched, and he went to prison for a couple of years. And he discovered God from an 80-something-year-old lady that would come to the prison and minister. And so he was able to get out, went to a halfway house through her program in Arizona. And when he moved back to Utah, I was like, okay, well, the cliche is like, everyone finds God in prison.
Yeah. War in prison.
Yeah, he'll be back to selling drugs, you know, pistol whipping people, making money, and doing his thing. And I saw him, and he was like working. He worked for me, and he worked. And he was humble. I was like, all right, when is he gonna break? When is Kelly gonna break? This is all a show. And in the meantime, he's inviting me. Hey, you should come to church. You know, I'm like, dude, I'm going to Hawaii, man. Like, we're good. I need to go to church. And so anyway, he would do certain things. Like, he wasn't worried about money. He was driving a very humble car. Like, he just wasn't worried about that. His clothes, nothing. And I remember vividly, like, he had this contraption around his neck, and it was like a filter. He was going out ministering to the homeless like at 2, 3 in the morning. Oh, wow. I was like, what is that for? I was like, in case someone's ODing, I can do CPR. I'm like, okay. So I finally said yes. Probably a couple years. He went to church. K2.
He wore you down.
He wore me down. Went to K2 to church. I was like, I'll check it out. And so Dave Nelson, who's the lead pastor there, incredible, passionate man. And I'm like...
Can tell a story.
Yeah. Passionate about God. and church is packed, and I'm like, okay, these are just like regular people, man. Like, everyone is just doing their thing. And his story was compelling, and I'm like, man, this guy is a hell of a salesman. I'll be back. I liked what he said. I was on the edge of my seat, and so I kept coming back, and then there was a message that helped me realize that I was a mess. I actually broke down. I was like, whoa, what's going on? That's the spirit talking to me, right? Realizing, man, I need to do something different to fulfill, to pour love into my family. I just need to do things different because I was living multiple different lifestyles. Mm-hmm. And so that was the catalyst. It was my brother. His example of what a man would look like. That's what he was living it. And I saw that, and he had peace, he had happiness. And I'm like, man, I have a lot of things, material things, but I wasn't happy. So that was the start of my discovery of who I am and who God is and what he can do. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great story. The powerful change that I've seen in you, Anthony, is that when I worked for you, you are really hard on yourself. You're a hard driver. You don't take excuses. There's only results. You were very hard on Anthony Morrison, and so that would spill out on that. You'd be hard on me. You'd be hard on, the crew, and hard on your family because of this hardness that you had in your heart against Anthony. Yeah. The shift that I've seen in this is watching my brother go to a place of loving Anthony, and in so doing, loving other people. Yeah. Like you never have before. Like I see you connect with people, and I'm just like, this is not the Anthony I know. That hard driving, let's do this. You can come with me or get the fuck out of my way. Yeah. Now it's come with me. Let me bring you up. Let me help you. Yeah. And I see you making those changes, and I think that is the reason you're on the podcast. Because that kid back in Lynwood to this man now, what a tremendous change. Like that's a different person. That's a reincarnation, a reinvention, whatever you want to call that. And I find it fascinating to watch this. And I stand back and I don't work with you anymore. We're friends, and we get together for barbecues once in a while or a Christmas party, and I see this and this subtle change is continually happening, this refining process is happening in your life. And I truly admire watching this happen because this is a transformation that's I would have never believed. If you'd have told me 10 years ago, if you'd have told me, guess what? It's going to happen to Anthony. I'd have been like, Anthony Morrison, this guy. I know him. And so I'm grateful for the example. One of the things that I learned in the men's group that I've shared with these boys is to live an intentional life. Yeah. That first men's group that we went to, and it was the first time I'd ever heard that language of living a life with intention. Yeah. And it struck me so strongly that I was attending church every Sunday. I was showing up and doing my journey because I had never considered living a life of intention. I'd always lived by someone else's whim. Yeah. Whatever she wanted me to wear, wherever we were going to go, whatever we were going to do. An expectation. And it was the first time I thought to myself, well, what do I want? What do I want? Yeah. Quite an eye-opening growth moment for me. And of course, I'm on my path where I'm at. But I was like, that men's group that we did was like pretty transformational for me. That first one that we did. And I've been afraid to go back because I'm still trying to digest what I learned that first time. Like, I don't know if I can take it anymore. Yeah. It's good stuff. Well, Anthony, what were you going to say?
No, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Just those men's groups are just priceless, man.
Yeah. Well, that's where I started thinking about Thanksgiving's Heroes, and where I started thinking about, you know what, I could be successful and happy. I could have both of those things. I could have success and abundance. I could have all these things. God wants me to have these things, like me believing that I'm unworthy and that I'm unloved and all these things. That was the beginning of my shift, which I'm still shifting. I'm still coming around to who is Rob and is he worthy and what's he worthy of? And that question over and over again, I have to remind myself. And the reason that I ask you that is I spend a lot of time thinking that, like, how can I stay in my highest and best self all the time? Because my highest and best self, I'm in alignment.
Yeah.
I'm a tool in the hands of, and I really feel that way. And when I'm in that space, I'm undeniable. I can raise the money to feed the families. I can do the things. And when I get out of that space, when I become incongruent with that identity, man, I get in my way, dude.
Absolutely.
Depression, I'm upset, I'm frustrated. Come on, hurry, impatient all the time. I go back to that hard driving guy that we were just talking about, because I have that in me. I think that's what
you do.
You and I resonated in that space.
Yeah.
So I share that with you in a space of vulnerability, but mostly because I think this is something that most men need to think about.
Yep. I agree.
Men and women.
Yeah.
Who are you? What do you want? Why were you made?
Right.
And what are you going to do with that information?
Yeah.
If you can be in that space all the time, then you're doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I absolutely, I believe that. And you're moving mountains instead of just hills, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we think too little of ourselves. We need to dream big. We need to dream really big. And there's people that are out there that are doing it. There's living examples of people that are just regular people that know who they are, that are killing it. They're killing it for the kingdom. They're killing it for the world. They're curing things, curing cancers. I mean, they're creating peace in violent areas.
Yeah.
So
powerful stuff. Well, Anthony, grateful to have you on the podcast. The American Masterminds is always grateful for these kinds of conversations. One of the things that we've learned here on the American Masterminds podcast is that there's a common theme for success. There's a common theme for fulfillment.
Yep.
And these themes repeat themselves in every podcast. We don't even need to bring it up. Like, we just start talking about your people's story, and we come down to these basic fundamental laws. It's like arguing about gravity. You know what I mean? Like, this is it. This is how it works. And I loved that because it's a good reminder for me. It's a good reminder for me to be present and to be intentional in my life, and to remember who I am. Grateful for that message. Thank you for that tonight. If you've enjoyed this podcast, ladies and gentlemen, please share it. Please follow us and like it. And also, if you have someone on there that you'd like us to interview, we would love the opportunity to meet who you know. We're grateful for you tuning in tonight. We're grateful for you, Mr. Morrison, for being a part of our podcast. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to be here, guys. Thank you. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.